Hello everyone, my name is Luis and welcome to the Sites Wiz channel. Today we'll be talking about my Camino route. We did the Camino Portugues in 18 days. As you can see over there, there's a map, and in the blue words are the places that we stopped in and took a rest in, and in the black words are the more frequently stopped places where you usually just take stops in, but we didn't go there. So we did a Camino in 18 days, which is pretty slow compared to lots of other people we met along the way. And the Camino is a nice thing to do. So on the first day of the Camino, we went to Matosinhos, which was a nice hike. It was only 12 kilometers, but it rained. Also, we took 9 days in Portugal and 9 days in Spain. So when it rains, it gets really tough because you have to stop a lot and it takes a lot of your time when it rains. So actually it kind of felt more like we were hiking 18 or 15 kilometers. Our next day second day was a very short day, and it was 6.4 kilometers to Perafita from Matosinhos, and it was a very nice hike. We actually just went to the beach after because we had enough time to go to the beach, so I enjoyed it. But the third day, it was supposed to be 18 kilometers, I think, and it became maybe 22. And I was very fatigued in the end of that hike. I was just like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? But we weren't there yet. So it was very tiring on the day from Vila do Conde because it was our first 20-kilometer hike, and it was just very different compared to the Matosinhos and the Perafita hikes. So day 4, we went to Rates from Vila do Conde. And Vila do Conde to Rates was on a lot of roads, and I think that made it tough, but it was only around 10 kilometers, so that was the good thing. So I think that we stayed in our first albergue in Rates, and we did get a very good rest in the albergue, obviously, because in albergues we obviously the beds aren't very comfortable sometimes, and it takes a long time to sleep sometimes. So I would say that, from Vila do Conde to Rates, it was not a very tough hike, but sometimes you need to get very good rest for the next day. So I think that was, sometimes when you sleep in albergues, it just doesn't feel right for your body when you sleep. Next day, we went from Rates to Barcelos. Barcelos is probably one of the biggest cities we went other than Porto, and Barcelos was a nice city. So from Rates to Barcelos, there's a city across called Barcelinhos, and I would say it's around 15-20ish. So it was one of our longer hikes on the Camino Portugues, but it didn't really give me a problem because when you reach Barcelinhos, you just cross the bridge and you're in Barcelos, so it's not a problem. Because sometimes when you're in a place in different places where it actually is far to get to the bridge you need to cross to go there. So I think that Barcelinhos was quite a small city, and you just needed to walk 1 kilometer to get to the other side and cross the bridge to Barcelos. The next day after that was Barcelos to Vitorino dos Pais, or Carrera de Agra, and that was a nice hike. We stayed in a very pleasant albergue, Casa Fernanda, and I really liked it there. So they gave us the dinner. It was delicious, the soup was delicious, and I loved it there. But the hike overall was not very good. It was 25 kilometers, and I just was I was just thinking, where is it? And it was in the middle of the farms, and I'm really confused. But it was very enjoyable because it was there were lots of farms and it wasn't all roads. So the place was a farm. It wasn't a hotel in the middle of the city. It was a farm place, which was nice to see because they even had wine for the adults, and it was very enjoyable. I could see how everyone was happy there. So after that, we went to Ponte de Lima from Vitorino dos Pais, and Ponte de Lima is actually the oldest city in Portugal. So it's a very nice city actually. It's quite small, because we stayed in the downtown Ponte de Lima. There's a bridge to the other side, and that's where the albergue was, but we were staying in Casa da Travessa, which was on the other side, which was closer to the market, where we ate delicious food. And I really like Ponte de Lima. It has a nice lifestyle because you have the market and you have the bridge, which is beautiful, and you have the new bridge. It just was one of the most beautiful cities in the Camino Portugues. From Ponte de Lima, we went to Rubiaes. It was around 20 kilometers. We kind of felt like we didn't want to do it, but there were no places to stop in between Ponte de Lima and Rubiaes. And Rubiaes actually isn't a very big city. It's just like a town. So it was enjoyable. It was in the farms and it rained on that day, so we stayed in the Albergue Constantino, which was a nice place. It was actually only us, so I think we could have gotten a bunk and it would have been the same as the hotel room, but it was still a very nice break compared to our other days, like on Ratesh or some other days. But after that, from Rubiaes, we went to Pacos or Pedreira, and Pacos or Pedreira, we stayed in the Quinta do Camino, which was a very nice like farm lifestyle, and it even has a swimming pool. It was a very nice place. It had its own restaurant. Even though Pacos isn't like a city where there are lots of amenities, it was very good that they had their own restaurant, because we just needed to walk like 50 meters to get to a restaurant from our hotel room. So it was very nice to have a restaurant there, and I think Quinta do Camino was another one of our great like nights on the Camino Portugues. So after that, we crossed to Spain, to Tui from Pacos, which was very exciting. We even took photos. After a restful night in the Quinta do Camino, we had to set off to Valenca. We decided that it would be too short to go to Valenca, and we had to go to Tui, which was across the bridge, going on the international bridge over the Rio Minho. So we just decided that we'd eat lunch in Valenca, and we saw the beautiful Fortaleza, which has been turned into a beautiful tourist attraction with cafes inside. Although you could still see what it used to go through, and it had a beautiful view of Tui. So we slept in Tui in the Torre do Sudu, which was amazing because we had the view of the Rio Minho, so we could still see Portugal, and it was very nice. So the next day we went to Parinho, which was a 20 km hike. It was considered an industrial city. For me, it has industry in it, but it isn't all industry, because in the center, you can see the center, in the nighttime especially, it's very lively, and there are lots of people walking around the plaza, and it's very beautiful. So I would say that Parinho is industrial, but it does have some beautiful parts to it. So I say Parinho is an underrated city on the Camino Portugues. The next place was Redondela, where we stayed in another albergue, but there were actually reservations in it. So Redondela was quite a beautiful city. There are two viaducts. One was to Madrid, and the other was just around local to like Pontevedra and sorts. So it was quite a beautiful place, Redondela. From Redondela to Pontevedra, we hiked to Arcade, and Arcade originally we were going to stop there, but it's a very small town, and we actually miscalculated the days, and we would actually not arrive on my birthday if we went and stopped in Arcade. So after that was a beautiful Roman bridge, and then the capital of a region in Galicia, Pontevedra. Pontevedra was actually quite a big city, and I could tell that people actually didn't live inside Pontevedra because it had a lot of things to see in it, but it was actually quite small. So I think people live on the outskirts of Pontevedra, and they just took their cars inside. But Pontevedra was like probably the most lively city other than Santiago and Porto on the Camino, because when you see like walk around just in the center, there are lots of people, especially in nighttime, like Parinho, except a bit more, because like Pontevedra is a capital in a region in Galicia, and that's quite important. So Pontevedra was a very nice place, and I actually enjoyed Pontevedra a lot. So Pontevedra was one of the most important cities on the Camino Portugues, obviously, and I think that it's quite enjoyable and you should take a stop there, obviously. So after Pontevedra, we went to Brialos, which was like a small town, like around the size of Arcade. So in Brialos, we stayed in albergue, because we didn't want to go to Caldas de Reis because it was around like 25 kilometers. We just wanted to take the shorter 20-kilometer hike to Brialos. So I think the Brialos hike was actually very useful because we needed the hike to Brialos. We couldn't hike to Caldas de Reis, obviously, because in the end of the hike to Brialos, I was very tired, and there was like an extra 200 meters to the albergue from the Camino path, and it felt so tiring. It felt like 2 kilometers to me. So I could tell that I was extremely fatigued and that we really wouldn't be able to hike to Caldas de Reis, and I think it was worth it to stop in Brialos. After Brialos, we took a 10-kilometer hike to Carachero, which was much shorter, but we sadly had to skip Caldas de Reis. But Caldas de Reis' main attraction, which was the fountain, the springs, we were still able to go there, and we dipped our feet in it, and it was really nice and hot though. I think I burned my feet in it somehow. So Caldas de Reis was a nice stop. We ate lunch there like in Valenca, and we stayed there a lot. We were like enjoying it a lot, but then when we had to hike to Carachero, the 5 kilometers, we were so tired. I think we got used to like sitting, and we thought we were over with that day. So the next day after was from Carachero to Padron. Padron is the last big city before Santiago, and Carachero to Padron was a nice hike. Padron was where St. James started his preaching, and it's a very important city. There are lots of amazing places in Padron. You can even get the award of the Pedronia, which means you went to Padron, and it's like a certificate. So I think Padron was one of the most amazing cities because there's even like a church up there where you could like see the stone that was tied to St. James's boat that the body was stored in, and it was quite amazing, that Padron, and I think that it was actually pretty close to rivaling how important Santiago was, because I think that the Padron was where St. James started, and the Camino is all about St. James, right? Because he was the one who started the Camino. So the second last day was from Padron to Rua de Francos. You would not probably know what Rua de Francos is because you more commonly stop in O Miladoiro or O Faramelo. Rua de Francos is in between O Miladoiro and O Faramelo, and there was a place there called Parada dos Francos, which was a very nice place. It had a restaurant across the street, and it was quite nice. So O Faramelo and O Miladoiro I thought were too close and too far, because I think Rua de Francos was right in the middle. So we decided to stop in Rua de Francos instead. It was around 12 kilometers to Rua de Francos. And the last day, Rua de Francos to Santiago, was 13 kilometers. It was very nice, but it was very enjoyable, but you're so close, and when you're so close, you just feel like 1 kilometer is 5 kilometers. So it was a very tiring slog to the Santiago. But once I reached Santiago, I was so psyched. I was like, we're in the cathedral. We made it. We did 242 kilometers, and it was just amazing. My feet had so many aches though, and it was very like tiring after, and I think the recovery time we need for the Camino is like amazingly large. But the cathedral was just amazing to see. It was our first time seeing it actually. And it was just a very beautiful cathedral. I think it's one of the most beautiful cathedrals in the world. And I just love looking at it. We're like, yes, we reached our ultimate goal. For all of this hiking, it was definitely worth it to come to this place. So I definitely felt like I achieved something. So I definitely felt like the Camino Portugues was worth doing, and I definitely suggest if you don't have the time to do the Frances one, you should do the Portuguese one from Porto. So we did the Porto to Santiago de Compostela Camino Portugues, and I hope you liked the video. Thank you for watching, and see you in my next destination.